Hello and welcome to the Redmen TV for our Manchester City preview show with Omar from Citizens TV. Thanks for coming back on the channel. I wanted to know from a Manchester City fan how they would line up against Liverpool this weekend, the 12:30 kickoff at the Etihad Stadium. So we brought Omar in, do a collaboration. I'm gonna put your side up. You've given it to me already. You talk me through the reasons, if you don't mind, talking about why you've picked this goalkeeper and why you've picked this back four. So we've started with Ederson in goal, mate. What's this guy brought to your side since moving to the club?
I think a lot more confidence in the defence. I mean, I've never felt less confidence in a player than Claudio Bravo. Distribution as well. Some very, very nice kicks against Everton, which, you know, might sound a little bit weird, but distribution is a big part of how Pep obviously wants to play, and it's working quite well. He's a lot more confident than Bravo, looks just more solid. I've got more confidence in Ederson than I ever had in Claudio Bravo. And he's made a couple of decent saves, made a great one against Defoe in the last match against Bournemouth. That was a crucial one. I believe we were losing 1-0 at the time, so could have been a massive, massive game changer. And he's a big presence as well. He's a lot bigger than Bravo, who for a keeper is relatively diminutive at only 6 foot, and Ederson's about 6'3", 6'4". So he just brings a presence, really, more than anything that Bravo lacked.
What about this back three? Have I got that the right way round? Is it Stones on the right, Otamendi on the left, or?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, the company's definitely down the middle. I think we will go with the 3 or the 5 or whatever you want to call it. Well, 3 centre backs. Let's put it that way. It's been okay, the back 5, and I think we played okay this season. It's been nothing spectacular. I'd rather start with the 4, but I think Pep's going to go with the 5. I think ultimately playing with the 5, it doesn't provide us with enough defensive stability to compensate for what we lack in creativity going forward. We're much more creative when we have like a 4-1-4-1 or a 4-3-3 than a 5-3-2, for example, like we've been playing.
All right,
recently.
we'll move on to the sort of wing backs then. I suppose that'd be Walker and Mendy. Am I right in saying Mendy's actually yet to play left wing back this season in the Premier League?
No, he did play in the last match against Bournemouth.
Which you played a 4 at the back, didn't you?
Well, it kind of lined up like a 4 at the back on paper, but Danilo was almost dropping in to make sort of a sort of an asymmetric 3. It's Pep. It's
all fluid.
Yes, fluid formation. Those of you who play Pro Evo will know what I mean by that. But yeah, well, we've played more of a structured 3. Than ever sort of operating with a 4, even though on paper that was how it sort of lined up. And Mendy was very, very good against Bournemouth, putting a lot of crosses. I believe it was 13 that he put in that game alone. And he loves to do that, and he loves to get forward. He's a big physical presence, Mendy, as well, which for a fullback, he's built like a centre-back. He wouldn't look out of place next to company in the centre of defence. He loves to go forward. I think if you play Trent Alexander-Arnold, who, look, by all accounts, seems like a really, really good, promising young right-back, but doesn't seem to be physically too imposing, so I think Mendy might have the opportunity to bully him. But also, the biggest thing that Walker and Mendy possess over the predecessors, Clichy, Zabaleta and the like, their physical attributes, their speed, their recovery speed, which is going to be absolutely crucial when we play you, because of course Mane and Salah, for example. Walker showed against Brighton his ability to show recovery speed, so did Mendy against Bournemouth, and of course on the breakaway, I mean, it was incredible against Arsenal. It was absolutely incredible. I'm praising Liverpool as well. See, I hope you're watching. I'm praising you.
You've just shouted at them. What little credit you had, it's gone, Omar. Okay, we'll move on to the forward line then. We've got Aguero and Jesus. It's a frightening team on paper, isn't it? And, you know, the interesting thing as a football fan, we know that this Premier League game is probably the eyes of all football fans around the country will be looking at this game. There's so much attacking talent, 2 attacking sides. I mean, De Bruyne, David Silva, Aguero, Jesus, just frightening from 4 from Manchester City.
Yeah, and there were some very, very good passages of play against Bournemouth. I think about the last half an hour of that first half was the best football we've played all season. Some of it was really, really nice. There was ultimately a shot from David Silva which culminated in going over the bar, but there was some beautiful first touch, 1-2, what you would say would be tiki-taka, essentially. It was very, very good. Unfortunately, though, Aguero and Jesus is where the biggest problem lies, because although they're 2 great strikers in their own right, they're not great together, which is annoying because you've got 2 great strikers and you don't want to bench either of them. I think Aguero right now is not really adapting to his lack of pace. I think he's lost a yard or half a yard with all the injuries over the years. But you can't count out the fact that he is still a great goal scorer. But I think he is struggling to adapt to being more of a poacher as opposed to the explosive striker that we've known. And Jesus, he's had a good start to the season, linked up very well. Against Everton, he was very poor, but against Brighton, he was trying to make things happen. Scored, I think, 2 offside goals, and of course got the equaliser against Bournemouth. So Jesus is operating very nicely. David Silva and De Bruyne, both operating a bit deeper, particularly De Bruyne. But there were a couple of very nice angled through passes over to Mendy. There was one that culminated in a great chance for Gabriel Jesus against Bournemouth, where De Bruyne plays an angle sort of ball over the top to Mendy, who fires it over to Jesus, and he's got a great chance. Unfortunately, he hits it wide.
Okay, well, what about? I mean, we know about your attacking talent as Manchester City, but Liverpool fans, I'm sure, will want to know, how can we get at Manchester City this season? You know, Everton almost stifled the attack, I think. Obviously, 1-1 draw with Everton, you beat Bournemouth 2-1 and whatever. But how do we get at this 3 at the back? What are the weaknesses of this Manchester City side if this is how they line up?
The fullbacks are going to push very high, definitely. Can kind of have a get-out-of-jail card with their speed. I think Everton did something really, really good when they played us. They set up in a way that I don't think you're going to set up in that manner. I think they'll set up to be more offensive. But they set up in a manner where they expose the fact that our attack, they're all very diminutive. You know, none of those 4, they're not physically imposing. They're not going to win many 50-50s. And because Everton have got a very, very strong defence. I mean, I'm looking at Liverpool. I mean, I'm seeing you've got 2 very strong central defenders. Is it going to be Ragnar Klavan and Dejan Lovren?
No, it's probably going to be Lovren and Matip in this game. Yeah,
well, yeah, Matip's still a
absolutely
big figure. So that could work to your advantage. But I think really you're going to want to hit us on the break. And I'm not saying that you can't play us toe to toe. I think honestly, out of all the teams in the league, if you wanted to go at us and be really offensive, I think you could do it. And I think you could win. But I think your best chance, in my opinion, to get a good victory, I think would be to utilise the fact that you've got Salah and Mane, their speed on the counter attack. Otamendi will go to ground quickly. Stones can be great, but there's also
times
he
like in space? Because a lot of centre backs in this league are pretty poor at tackling in space, which is why I think somebody like Azpilicueta was so good for Chelsea last season, because he's a full-back who can play centre half, played in the 3 at the back, is used to coming out into these areas of the pitches and tackling on one-on-one situations. What's Stones like in those situations?
Again, I think Stones can be 50-50, weirdly enough. I think at his best, he can be really, really good. And I think, to be honest, in my opinion, the last time we played you, I thought he was one of his best games that he's played for us. And I think his duel with Mane was fantastic. And he didn't pocket Mane or anything like that. Mane had a great game. But there were chances that Mane had that Stones was able to thwart. So I think Stones could be a very valuable asset. I think it really rests on company. And
as it has done for years.
Yeah, I mean, the company really... It's the presence. It's the presence.
It's just a completely different side without it, man. Yeah, and it's testament to just how good a player he is. And he's had those injuries. He comes back into the side. Doesn't look like he's ever missed a beat. And as you say, he's been there, done it, and won it. And everybody in this side respects him. And he must marshal John Stones, young centre half. He must marshal Otamendi and stuff. Yeah. The one worry I would have for Manchester City, and maybe it's a good thing for Liverpool, is you have travelled 107,000 kilometres over international duty. Liverpool have travelled 78,000 kilometres. 14,000, 14,000, 14,000, 14,000, 14,000. Now, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of your players travelling over 14,000 kilometres this week, having to play games and stuff like that. Is there a worry that this side could be a little bit leggy? Do you think maybe Pep Guardiola could utilise some of his, frankly, outstanding squad to maybe get a bit of fresh legs in there who maybe haven't travelled as far?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, ultimately they are professional footballers, so we should expect them to be able to deal with this. But
there's time differences, there's everything. I mean, I say Liverpool have travelled as well, don't get me wrong. Coutinho, Firmino, they've travelled distance, but Mane and Salah are like 8,000 for Salah, I think, 6,000 for Mane, or the other way around. So this could play a factor in what is essentially the first game of the weekend in the Premier League as well. The 12:30 kickoff on the Saturday. After all this travelling, coming from different time zones, it could be a factor. And I just wonder again whether we might see some of these players involved.
Yeah, I mean...
Is there anyone for Otamendi, maybe?
Possibly. I mean, I think Mangala's the the next sort of most senior centre-back that we've got, but it seems like he's...
Crap.
Well, I'm a Mangala fan. I'm a believer in Eliakim Mangala, but I mean, I think in this game his physical attributes could play an advantage, but ultimately I wouldn't start him unless we absolutely had to. But ultimately, I think they're our best three centre backs, and unless Pep's going to play a back four, which I doubt, although I would start with a back four, I think that's the 11 he's going to start. And I think Pep is less stubborn than some people think, but I do think, though, at the same time, it does. There are times when it takes a loss or a negative result for him to change it. And I think he's a guy that wants to stick with something. He wants it to give it time, but that can be a gift and a curse, because when, for example, like this, where we're getting results, 7 points from 9 games. I mean, it's a very, very good start. But the performances, they've been okay at best, really.
Yeah. So. Okay. Well, I mean, just before we wrap up, I mean, Pep Guardiola is one of the outstanding coaches in world football. He's been there, he's won it, he's done everything in the game of football. But I always feel, and this is the same for Jurgen Klopp as well, for most top managers, it's not that they're stubborn, it's that their ego is a bit big. And I think sometimes offensive minds are always led by ego, whereas a defensive manager, someone like a Rafa Benitez or a Jose Mourinho is the perfect example of this, will take what he's given, and he will take away the offensive, what the offense can do. Whereas I always feel like offensive guys always just go out there and play that way because they believe that that's the way that you've got to do it, and that's when the defensive mind always seems to take advantage. Jose Mourinho's the master of it. He goes into those top 4 clashes and he wants to draw.
Except against Pep, though.
Yeah, but listen, everyone's got the kryptonite, haven't they? And, I can't... let's be honest, Jose Mourinho's won trophies, and he's won more Premier League trophies.
For Pep as well, actually, the kryptonite could be Klopp, because Klopp's registered, I think, 4 or 5 victories over Pep.
5, I think it is, maybe. And then, obviously, it might have been the 6th one, might have been on New Year's Eve. I'm not sure on that anyway. But anyway, listen, great show. Thanks for the insight into Manchester City. Don't forget to go and check out Citizens TV. The link is in the description. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to his for more Manchester City, if that's your thing. And comment below.